2 months into the coronavirus pandemic, and you have companies that had previously pledged to pay their workers extra in hazard pay are now taking that away. Now, these are, of course, this affects essential workers. Now, these essential workers get paid usually very poorly, but since the lockdowns have been in place, have been taking all the risk. These are grocery store workers, people that are working to make sure that you're able to buy food at the store in order to feed your families. So now, the people in grocery stores, they're in close proximity to customers, and therefore they're taking the most risk. They're taking far more risks than, of course, the CEOs of these same companies. And as a result, for a while, they have been compensated by usually a small temporary increase in pay, known as, of course, hazard pay, which normally gets applied to the military. But in this case, it's the middle of a pandemic. And so, yeah, of course, hazard pay makes sense. Now, Kroger gave employees a couple of dollar in increase in pay, what they called a hero's bonus, right? Or at least they did until May 16th, when that hero's bonus came to an end. And so now that's interesting because I didn't think that coronavirus was over. I mean, yes, a lot of people have gotten bored of it and they're like, we don't care about it anymore. It's over. Let's just go back to the beach. Well, coronavirus isn't over. It's still out there. It's still infecting people. It's still killing people. And so there's still a need to pay people who work in these grocery stores hazard pay. And look, you know me, I think that they should have a living wage, right? But the hazard pay is the very least that they could do. The very least that they can do. And still, that's not enough. So now Kroger ended their heroes bonus, right? And they're not the only one. Other companies, of course, that had put a temporary pay increase have decided to take it away. For example, Starbucks is planning to end their $3 an hour raise for workers at the end of May, according to the LA Times. So now, look, some of you might think, look, I get it. They can't afford to pay these workers. I mean, look how hard everybody's getting hit by coronavirus. I mean, you have 100,000 small businesses that have closed that are never going to come back as a result of coronavirus. Well, that's true. And those are small businesses. But you can't tell me Starbucks and Kroger are a small business. They're not. In fact, these are the stores that are killing it. I mean, a lot of these companies, Kroger, for example, saw same-store sales increase of about 30% in March as customers stocked up on groceries. This is according to Winsight Grocery Business. And Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen, for himself, had received a 21% increase in compensation last year. His income is more than $14 million. Now, increases in profit, again, because there are more people are buying groceries because, well, you have a lot of sit-down restaurants that are closed. And a lot of these, unfortunately, small businesses. For example, there's a small business where I met my wife at, right? For our first date, Italian oven. That closed. That is no longer in business, and that makes me sad. I don't like that. That's one of the small businesses that closed, right? And so these businesses that were doing the heroes bonus, like Kroger, look, they're not sit-down restaurants like that. And the reason that restaurant closed down is because, well, you had debt obligations to the parent company, right? And that had nothing to do with the pandemic. But then the pandemic was like a 1-2 punch. The second punch was the fact that they couldn't adapt their business to doing only takeout or curbside, right? And so they were generating no revenue. They were in a lot of debt. And so they went out of business. And that sucks. And so that's happening to a lot of small businesses. But the difference is that Kroger is a grocery store and they can do all that stuff. They can adapt, and they've actually made a lot more money than they normally would because of how many people are stocking up on groceries and going to the grocery store now instead and cooking at home because they are home instead of doing order out, takeout, and delivery. And so, yeah, that's the problem here. Now, the essential workers in these stores, they're not seeing any of these benefit. No, they saw a temporary hazard pay boost, but then now it's basically gone. And they look, these people don't make living wage, right? These people make a minimum wage like $10 an hour. And we're not making a living wage even with that bonus. And now that's gone. It's just gone. And now Molly Kinders, a fellow at the Brookings Institute who studies hazard pay, she weighed in this. And she says, look, the reason that we gave them hazard pay is the fact that, they have significant risk. In fact, she says, many low-wage workers are not able to afford vehicles, meaning they risk exposure to the virus on public transit during their commutes to work. So, look, buses, those are buses, trains, those are enclosed spots, right? Where coronavirus can spread very easily, cramped, confined spaces with other people, right? So low-wage workers, they can't afford cars. They can't afford the insurance in some places. And so, look, they have to do public transportation in order to get to their jobs, the grocery store, which puts them at risk, which puts customers at risk, and they're not even getting paid more for it. They're just not. Millions of essential workers, as I pointed out, don't have health insurance. So if they get sick, well, guess what? They can't go to a doctor. Any illness, and I'm not just talking COVID-19, but any illness is potentially devastating for them and their families. She said this, quote, when your employer gives you low wages, those low wages make you less resilient to the disease. Yeah. This is all stuff that I talk about often because these are the problems facing workers. And now it's even worse than it was before. I mean, the system is rigged against workers. It needs to change. What we need is a Medicare for all system, and we need a living wage and not just temporary hazard pay. That said, there's not a lot that Congress is doing. Yes, Pramila Jayapal is doing the HEROES Act, right? Which would also extend that or actually codify some of that hazard pay into law, while also ensuring that employees stay on their, employers' payrolls, essentially. But look, we need more than just that. Again, I think we do need a UBI. We do need a Medicare for all system. We do need a living wage. We need all that stuff, right? Unfortunately, our politicians are so corrupt that these workers, they're going to get nothing. They're going to get none of that. Despite the risk that they take, the CEOs don't. And that's the other thing, right? So, the CEOs deserve all that compensation because they take all the risk, right? They take some financial risk, sure. But right now, especially, you have a lot of risk that is being borne by these workers that literally cannot afford to not go to work. It's disastrous. They do need a higher wage, and they do need that hazard pay until this is over. And unfortunately, a lot of companies are pulling that away, or they're giving a one-time bonus. Now, that one-time bonus, that's nice, right? Oh, look, you get a $300 bonus like Walmart, right? $150 if you're a part-time worker, which is mostly, what their workforce is made up of, part-time workers. You get $150, and then that's it. But wait a minute. If this goes on for, say, 6 months or God forbid, even a year, right? Which it's certainly possible. Those people, that $150, it's nothing. It's nothing. But if you had given them, say, a $3 to $5 increase in their wages per hour, well, then that, of course, adds up. That adds up as hazard pay. And so they don't want to do that. No. The one-time bonus, because I think they do think it's going to last for a long time. So switch to the bonus. There you go. We can say we did something, and actually we end up saving more money. And that's it. That's what's going to happen. And so this, of course, leaves people at risk who are, back to getting paid very little money, right? $9 to $10 an hour if you're lucky, in a very dangerous environment. And what's even more frustrating, of course, is that money is that's not enough. But these companies whose businesses are booming, now that people are not going out to eat, as I mentioned, they've been killing it. They've been killing it in sales. This is another example of disaster capitalism and how in America, even essential workers, quote unquote essential workers, just get treated like garbage. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.